Well, dear friends, dear colleagues, dear partner, thank you so much for being here on the show. So let's do a little round of introduction in case any of you do not know who are those fine people. First of all, we have Drindin, aka John Gust, which is the executive producer of Embers Adrift. Hi, John.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Then we have Charlize, aka AndrewPhippen, which is our world builder. Hi, Charlize.
How are you?
And he woke up specifically for you guys, as is from the other side of the world in Australia. And it's very, very late for him. And then we have Morrolan, which is our lead narrative designer. Hi, Morrolan.
Hello.
Morlan is also a content creator, so you need to follow him on his Twitch channel. Is really awesome. That's even how we get to know him first, through his stream. So when you're a content creator and a streamer, sometimes you can become a game dev as well.
Sometimes.
It's still a rare occurrence, but it happens. Hi everyone, welcome. Hello, Rustitonics. So today we are going to discuss about plenty of really cool stuff. Maybe, John, you want to start up discussing a little bit about the open weekend and all the cool stuff we can do?
Yeah, I mean we're really excited for all the new players coming in, and there's going to be several events you guys can check out. I don't know if you have the link to your post, Eloa, but there's going to be dueling tournaments, there's going to be invasions, there's going to be tours to get all the monoliths, all kinds of crazy stuff. We're also going to do a special stream showing the new content that was added to the game this month, so stay tuned after this for that.
Yeah, and we are teaming up with different content creators on their channel. The Nathan Napalm, Alice Blue, Sparrow, and Morroland. Everyone is streaming. The Drindin is not streaming.
I'm not. Yeah, no.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Before we start the fun discussion, maybe everyone want to say a little bit what they are working on in the team and how your work is doing. Even to, there had been full interview of each of those devs that you can find in our YouTube channel in the weekly community show. You can see them out there. It's also listed on the forum. But let's start with Charlie. Do you want to speak a little bit about what you're doing and what is your next project for the game?
Yeah, sure. There's a few things I'm working on at the moment with existing zones in place. So I'm working on just kind of revamping a few areas and making them a little bit more alive within the game world. But I've also got a few new areas that I'm working on that we shall be introducing sometime soon. I won't go into too much detail about them because then it won't make it exciting when people get into play. But lots of really cool stuff to come. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled and be ready to venture into some really cool areas.
Awesome, this is
Yeah.
exciting.
That stuff he's talking about is even beyond Grizzled Peaks, which is, all that our players at this point know about. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's really cool. So what about you, Morlan?
Well, the biggest thing that I'm finishing up right now is the Exile King quest. So there's a door in the Exile Freehold that's been closed for a few months that people have been wondering what's behind that. So that content, that's going to be one of our biggest quests, maybe the biggest quest that we put in the game so far. Lots of interesting choices that the player's going to have to make. So we're polishing up that right now, and then just adding more quests to the new zones that have been released over the last couple months. Those are going to start to get fleshed out as well.
Oh, this is super cool. This is super exciting. And what about you, John? What are you working on? Because you are working on some really exciting stuff as well.
Yeah. We're working on a press release for Sunday. So those of you who haven't heard, we do have a big announcement coming on Sunday. I'm going to probably do that around 1, so I'll probably just do it through our social channels. But yeah, we're gonna be doing that. We've been working on the roadmap this week, kind of for the last half of the year, so you guys can kind of see what we have in mind for what we hope to get done over that amount of time. And then obviously subject to change, but you know, what can you do? Game dev being game dev. Yeah, and then I kind of help out on the writing team a little bit here and there as well. Just been working on some lore tidbits to scatter around the world. So, you know, maybe you'll find a bookcase that's interactable somewhere, or maybe you'll find a note or a chest that isn't a normal like treasure chest, like it's like a different chest. So yeah, you might find that kind of stuff scattered throughout the world, or at least starting to be scattered throughout the world, beyond what we already have out there for you. So yeah, I'm also starting work on a map for Highland Hills, which Andrew, I'm sure, is going to have some extra work that's going to have to be done in there. We have some new, you guys know the others, the Ember Wraiths. So those things are going to start to become much more part of the story. So we have some different runes than you guys are used to will start popping up, and some kind of more props for the others will be starting to pop up too. And yeah, I think it'll be fun to see those. So yeah.
So yeah, that's an excellent point. We are going to speak a little bit about the next zone, but that
we should
be. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say we should address Sparrow's question real quick. Are they Ember Wraiths or are they others? What are they? I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of the residents of New Haven call them Ember Wraiths, and some of them are very adamant that they're not wraiths. So you'll have to wait and see what their story is. There's a whole story to unfold with them. So I'm really excited that we're getting that started.
So I'm going to answer Blue Strip 76 question. How do we download the game? So right now you can go on your account page. It's your account page, not the forum. You go on your account page and then you will see that you have a download link that you can download the game. And then you just use your credential of your account page, or you know, your password and your name from the forum. There it is. So something that I would like to talk about is how we are, because I think that's something quite important, especially for the returning player that started to play the game at release, and after 1 month or 2 they dropped the game and went to other adventure, and they are coming back today. We have been doing not only a lot of additional content, obviously, but also a lot of polishing of the existing content. Like Andrew was saying, he has been making the scenes more lively, etc. Morrolan have been working with Wade and yourself, John, on writing more quests and more lore. So do you want guys to speak a little bit about how we make the world a little bit more rich, how we make the game more complete? Maybe Andrew, you want to start up with your world building task?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the things that I work on or been working on personally is filling in a lot of empty voids in areas and kind of making the area grow as if the NPCs in the area actually live there and have been doing stuff within the zone. So a lot of people won't notice it in the background, but the development team probably would have noticed it, you know, as we're going along and doing updates and opening up new areas. You can see that the people have actually been, you know, kind of actively growing within that area. So my biggest task for me myself is trying to make it feel natural and not feel out of place. So that's been a big thing that I've been working on, is just trying to, you know, discover how how these guys would have come about doing what they're doing and trying to make it feel like it's meant to be there. So that's pretty much what I've been working on in terms of making the world feel more alive, just trying to make it feel very natural.
Is it something that take a lot of time to fill up all the corner with, you know, those little scenes and such?
It does, depending on the scope of it. Some of the areas, I mean, I can do pretty quickly, but getting a finer detail in and stuff like that can take up a little bit of time and a little bit of back and forth, you know, just to, you know, with the other development team to kind of, you know, get onto the same page. And especially sometimes it can be hard because we're on different sides of the world. So, you know, sometimes when we are relaying and talking to each other, it's usually via text. So, and sometimes things get mistranslated along the way. So, you know, there is a little bit of back and forth there, but I think we're handling it pretty well. And so far, there hasn't been too many issues. So,
oh, that's good. And what about you, Morrolan? How has been this kind of fleshing out progressively? Because we cannot do all the things at once. So how it's in this process?
Yeah, so we have a little bit more of a lead time on quests than, because, you know, we have to be able to see the zones and the layouts and kind of like get a feel for everything before we can write the quest or the story for that area. So usually what will happen is, you know, the game will, or the zone will come out on the live servers a little bit before the quests are ready. And so once the zone is out, it'll take a month or two, but that'll give us time to kind of flesh out the story of that area and find good locations for NPCs and you know, kind of like make everything fit together. So I think what you'll see, like with Grimstone Canyon, you know, that's been out for a little while now, so that's going to have more and more quests. Same with like the Forgotten Depths. You know, those will hit the game before their stories hit the game, but you know, I think it'll give people a chance to kind of go back through those areas. If they were there right on launch, then they'll get a chance to go back through those areas again with new content and kind of see it fully fleshed out the second time around.
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking personally, that maybe I would like to have a new character that doesn't do a single quest through her leveling, and then once I'm super high level, I go through the whole story in one shot to really have everything yes, in one shot, and not having the different weeks and months to forget a little bit what was going on, etc. I think that's something that I would like to experience again.
Yeah, the game already feels pretty different if you make a character now compared to even just like, you know, 6 or 7 months ago. A lot of the quests and stories have been updated. There's a lot of just more content in general. It's funny, we get reports sometimes of people thinking that you know, a quest is bugged because they remember the old version of it, and it's like, well, it's not bugged, it's just been updated. You don't have it memorized anymore. You got to figure out, you know, what the new solution is, or what the updated version is.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting indeed.
Do you have a favorite quest in the game, Morrolan?
I mean, in terms of like dialogue, I think the ones I'm probably most proud of are the class promotion quests. I think those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, people love them, those.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah. In terms of gameplay, I had fun with the statues quest. You know, making a little bit of a puzzle. It was fun to watch the first people, you know, figure out and solve that one when it was new. And now I think a lot of people just ask in World Chat where to go, but I'm sure some people still try to figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
So we are going to speak a little bit about the roadmap. Should I show to everyone what the roadmap's about?
Sure. This is not posted yet on the forums, but it will be probably by the end of the weekend. So yeah, feel free to share that on the screen and we could talk about that.
Yeah, it's an exclusive information for you guys that are watching the stream right now. That's the roadmap 2023, subject to change, very important. Maybe you want to read it yourself, John?
Here, give me a second to pop that up as well. Okay, so it just kind of talks about what we did, and this is all just major things. We're not getting into like the minute details because that would be probably not be able to fit anywhere on the site or whatever, like on this page. Done tons of stuff, but in Q2, we just kind of go through the major zones we've finished, like Forgotten Depths and Grimstone, a couple of Ember Veins. A major thing we've implemented is the group elevated level, which helps people who are lower level be able to be effective with their higher level friends. As Morrolan was talking about, we probably added 24 quests since, well, definitely since the last free weekend, but I'm not sure like how many since launch. It's been a lot. Several new creatures. Some of you will probably recognize like the mandrakes and the mangroves and
The stone
what else?
coats,
Yeah,
and the trolls,
we have
and the
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
the screech.
Yes, the shrieks. Yes. We also, this isn't in the game yet, but we have finished the epic weapon models. So that's going to be a big goal for us in Q3 is to get the epic weapon quests in. We have nearly finished a major POI for the epic quests, for those quests, basically. I'm not going to tell you where that is, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's cool looking.
We added, basically, as part of, phase 1 of alchemy, kind of bleeding into phase 2, the Cabal faction in the Forgotten Depths can use alchemy a lot more effectively than New Haven and Drifters can. So if you're fighting down in the Forgotten Depths, you'll see some of actual, like, more high fantasy alchemy going on. So yeah, I'm really excited for that to grow and to expand in Q3. We also put in a first-person mode, which was highly requested. And then, yeah, just several quality of life features, things like filtering for guild panels and friend panels and stuff like that. Yeah, all kinds of quality of life stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. So we have been accomplishing, we have been adding a lot of content. Every month we're releasing a pretty big patch. You can see the trailer of that patch. Every month we have a special streamer event every month where we're showcasing, which we will be doing just right after this discussion. So this is really something that we have started this year and that worked really well for us. Hopefully it worked really well for you as well. So John, do you want to read about the Q3? So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. This is everything we're going to try to push through throughout the summer. First up is Highland Hills, and I'm currently starting work on the map for that, and I know Andrew's probably going to be doing a couple of passes himself through Highland Hills just to dial it in for everything. Adric's going to be doing the level design stuff there. We're going to have our writing team go in, running around, starting to brainstorm quests for it. Yeah, one thing that's not really on these lists is like all the plans for the quests that we have. Just one big thing is like we're always going to be adding new quests. As far as I can tell, every single major patch at the end of each month will always have new quests for people to play. And that is another way that we're going to, infuse the lore into the world and just more life into the world in general. So you shouldn't have a lack of adventures to go on, that's for sure. But yeah, as far as Highland Hills goes, that's kind of the next thing that we're going to try to launch at the end of the month.
So Andrew can maybe speak to us a little bit about the Highland, what it looks like, without spoiling it, of course, because we need to make it a surprise, but, what kind of zone is this?
It's a zone that it's not as pretty as it used to be. That's probably the easiest way that I could say it. It's a zone that's been through a bit of trouble in the past, and there's certain areas within the zone that's kind of still alive and still flourishing, and there's other parts in the zone which ain't so. So you can expect a lot of hills, obviously being Highland Hills, but yeah, it's hard to explain. It's if you could think of it, a forest that may have potentially been burnt down and is starting to regenerate, or some areas that are still alive, then that's probably the easiest way to explain it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. How different is it from the other zone? Is it pretty different from a zone like Northreach, for example, which is pretty forestry already?
Oh yeah, it's very different. There is probably some areas that may resemble, similar areas to another zone that's coming up. Obviously leading into the next zones or whatever. But there also, it's got a couple of different biome areas which I kind of like, which kind of breaks the zone up a little bit because it's not all the same thing. So there is some areas in there that's going to feel totally different to another area. So
Well, that's really exciting. So, Morroland, do you have already any ideas of what's going to happen there, or it's not there yet?
Oh yeah, we have ideas. So I mean, we have obviously, like anyone who's explored and paid attention knows that there was an ancient society of some kind that used to be here before the drifters made their way across the bridge from the Darklands. And so you can see the ruins of that ancient society all over the place. And so, continuing that storyline, and also continuing to unveil the nature of the others, those interesting creatures that we see walking around. People who've been paying attention to those in Grimstone might notice some differences between the others in Grimstone and the others in New Haven Valley or Northreach, for example. So as the world grows, more detail about what's happening there and why those things exist will continue to grow as well, and people will be able to learn about that.
So the
or maybe come up with some of their own theories.
Yeah, the mysteries are slowly revealing step by step. That's really cool, really exciting. So when can we expect Highland? And how the release of that zone will happen? It will be in several phases, right, Sir John? You're muted.
Thanks. I think that is... We're going to shoot for one phase on that one, but it might end up being two phases. It will be kind of split as far as level areas. There's going to be more of like a 40-plus area and then like more of a 20-plus area in that zone. And it's going to have connections to other dungeons, multiple. So, you guys can look out for that. That's going to be super fun. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully one, but possibly two phases for that one. Yeah, I'm really excited for it. It, like Andrew was kind of saying, it is a little bit different than the rest of the landscapes that players have seen, which, is always a good thing. So... Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
But yeah, end of the month is the goal for that.
That's really nice. Already the end of the month for this new zone, guys. So, but we never know. Something could happen and it's delayed, but yeah, it's a nice goal.
Yeah. And I think I've already talked about like the epic weapon quests. Those are in progress. The POIs for the epic quests. And then Forgotten Depths 3, we are kind of we're gearing up for that one. I think that one's probably going to come next. And that one will kind of be the precursor to the Grizzled Peaks, which is our capstone zone for level 50 players at this point. So yeah, I mean, Forgotten Depths is super exciting. I can't wait to get to the third phase of that. But yeah, so
Yeah, Forgotten Depths received a lot of very positive feedback. So,
Yeah.
Charlize, what can you tell us about that? Like, it has been your creation, Forgotten Depths. So,
Well, there's a lot in there that people haven't seen yet, and there's a lot that I don't want to reveal just yet. I've got plans kind of up my sleeve that I'm even keeping hidden from the other guys, because nothing out too far out of the ordinary. But
What he's trying to say is I always spill the beans, and so he doesn't tell me things sometimes.
Yeah, we can't tell Durandon anything.
yeah, and I like to kind of keep a few things hidden too, just to surprise everyone, so people might come across something and it might inspire them down the track to go, well, actually we could do something really cool here. But yeah, there's lots that can be done to that zone, the dungeon, to actually make it a lot bigger than what it is. Whether we decide to actually go that route will be another story, but there is a lot of possibilities and things that can be done there. So it's something that I really enjoyed building when I built, and I still enjoy playing it when we get in there to play it. And I think the guys had it set up and how to have it running at the moment. They've done a really good job with it, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
and I think the players are really enjoying this dungeon, saying it was really the right route to take. At least that's the feedback I've been reading and hearing from different person. So it's very encouraging and nice to see that we have a very nice and good model of dungeon. So that means that the next dungeon will be based a little bit about that model, John?
You're talking about Forgotten Depths?
Yeah, like Forgotten Depths being the kind of example we will want to follow, as it has been so successful.
Yeah, and I think, part of the idea is adding in a few more areas into newer dungeons that have like the solo and duo route, right? Like if you go into the first Aquifer dungeon, Karst, that one kind of has a route that has a more solo friendly area, and then the second phase of that dungeon, Undercroft, also has like a whole level that's solo, a level that's more duo, and then the bottom level that's like really high level. So, or not high level, but like full group oriented. So yeah, I mean, the plan is to make sure that as we're putting new content in, we're following the successes that we've made, but also we're throwing in stuff for all sizes of groups as well, solo, duo, or like 4 to 6 players. So
yeah, I think this is also very well received, because it allows you to do something with your small group or by yourself when you are trying to fill up your group. So this is one also of the way we are encouraging and helping people to group up more easily in all kinds of way. Morroland, not only you are the lead narrative designer, but you're also a pro gamer. So what about these dungeons and such? How do you enjoy that from a pro gamer point of view?
I think that, so when it comes to Forgotten Depths, I think there's definitely some encounters. There's one encounter in particular. I don't know if people have run into the Alchemist yet or not, but yeah, that one definitely caught us off guard the first time we went through, even on the test server when we all had really good gear on. That was a particular encounter that I thought, was you had to be strategic about it. You couldn't just go in there mashing your buttons. You really had to think about the order you were using your skills and how you're going to conserve your resources, and even your positioning, which is, people have a little bit of like practice with positioning when it comes to things like bears and avoiding the days. But I think Adric has done a really good job with some of these new encounters of, increasing the difficulty, not just in terms of like execution, but just in terms of like having to think and really, plan ahead of time and work with your group and communicate. I like how dense the dungeon is too. It really makes like crowd control and balancing aggro a lot more of a challenge. If you've got a bunch of stuff that's chasing you or patrolling through the dungeon or catching you off guard, then that makes classes like Marshal and Brigand a lot more important in terms of like how they're going to handle their crowd control. It means your DPS can't just mash their buttons either, because you can't have your berserkers just AoEing and breaking all this CC either. So yeah, everyone's kind of got to turn their game up a little bit, I think, or turn their try a little bit harder than maybe they had in previous dungeons, and I like that a lot. I'm glad that that's ramping up.
Yeah, and I think that people that have been playing the game for so long, the people that have been sticking with us from the start and that are at the highest level now, they kind of enjoy to have some more challenge to get into, because there's something that one of our player that say that I find really nice is that when you have a high level player, you know that they are going to be competent because they have been playing so long to reach that level that they kind of know about the game. So you're almost guaranteed to have a skilled, competent player when they are level 40 or something.
Yeah, definitely. That's a lot of time invested.
Yeah.
Where the other storyline begins and the Vehuramen's rinse.
Yeah, well, I think if any of you have done the Eye of Ibax quest, I know Nathan Napalm had a stream of the whole quest that I was watching on the edge of my seat, trying not to type comments in the whole time. But yeah, that's one that kind of dips into the lore of the Vehueramen. And so these runes kind of signify a switch in their, basically like their technology, right? So like they figured out how to use Ember at a certain point, and that allowed them to very quickly cut and place and fuse stone, right? So like they went from building the stone runes that you see splattered around these earlier zones, like up, all the zones right now that are in the game I consider early zones, right? Like,
yeah.
You'll see these kind of stone structures, castle, textures on them, gray stone. So those are basically signifying like, okay, this is what the Vehueramen built before the Ember technology kind of like boosted them, right? So the new Vehueramen runes signify the things that they built using Ember. So you're going to start to see some of those runes in like Grimstone Phase 3, for example. That Grimstone Phase 3 is there in Quarter 4. But when we get into Grizzled Peaks, you'll see a lot of them. I'm hoping we can throw some of those in the Highland Hills. I'm not sure if they'll make it in initially with the first patch, but yeah, so like even like the world around you and the assets that you're seeing kind of signify some of the lore in the world, and kind of how Ember has not only transformed the world, but really transformed the people living in the world and what they've been able to do in it. So yeah, the Vehueramen runes, I'm really excited to start getting those in. We're going to get to start throwing much more Vehueramen lore like at you with those. And then, yeah, the others' dwellings, those are largely done as well. They just need placements. We need to kind of flesh out the quests and like where we're going to place them, because, obviously location's a big part of that. But yeah, the others' dwellings, I'm really excited for that because, as I said before, like the others have this whole storyline of their own to go through, and we're kind of just starting that. And the player's first encounter with the others is going to, they're going to basically make first contact. There's an other that is concerned about some stuff going on, so the player will get to interact with another, and not in the usual way of like, hey, I'm going to talk to you, but they'll get to interact.
Oh, this is going to be cool.
Yeah, they'll find out some cool things about the others, and how they operate and live, and how they communicate, what's important to them, all those kinds of things. What were they even? Like, what are others? Like, what the heck are they?
So
So yeah.
I like to say that, and you have heard me saying it very often, that instead of saying that this game is low fantasy, we're medieval science fiction. So it is through those type of story that we can have a little taste of that flavor. That's where it's really started to make sense, right? What would you say about that, Morrolan?
Yeah, I kind of like the medieval science fiction thing, because I mean the magic system in the game, nobody refers to it as magic. Like the characters in the game don't refer to anything as magic because they don't see it as magic. They see it as a technology that maybe was lost, or maybe that the people here used previously, but they see it as like a scientific endeavor. Like the academy and the philosophers, they're doing these experiments. Even like the cabal, you know, some of the villains in the game in the Forgotten Depths, they find this substance called ember, and they just play around with it and figure it out and see the potential that it has. And you know, there's a perfectly reasonable explanation behind the way that things work and why they work. And you know, people can kind of go through like a almost a scientific exploration of testing and trying that and unlocking that technology. So yeah, it is kind of cool, even though a lot of the stuff, you know, looks like your typical high fantasy magic. In our setting, all that stuff was being discovered by, you know, through a more or less like almost mundane scientific inquiry. That's the process that all that stuff is being discovered through.
And how do you illustrate that through the world building, Charlize?
Various ways, but I think we're still to tap into a lot of that yet. At the moment, it's only very basic stuff that we've put in place on in terms of the world building side of things. But there will be stuff coming up down the track which will kind of bring it more into play.
So that's exciting.
I think to jump onto that point, you know, it's like we have things in the game that point to it already, right? Like the Ember Drifts, which teleport you to somewhere in an underground environment. You have these Ember monoliths that can teleport the player. You know, you have these Ember rings that can heighten the regeneration of players. So, like that to me is kind of phase one, and that's kind of how we're telling the story of Ember through the world building is the various ways that players already encounter Ember and use it. So, you know, and we have various props, like, you know, when you do your first initial Emberstone quest, there's chunks of it sticking out of the ground that you have to go and find, and all that kind of stuff. So I would say, like, Sparrow mentioned something about phase one before, and I would say, you know, if she's thinking what I'm thinking, that's exactly right. Like, phase one is already present in the world. It's already, you know, Ember's there, and you can tell there's something powerful and alchemical or magical about it, right? So
yeah, and as the new zones come into play, you know, people will see that it'll start evolving a little bit more into the zones as if it's, you know, the zone kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
super
excited.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, let's speak about the quarter three. So that's the end of the year. So we have different really cool stuff coming in. Do you want to read about that?
In quarter four, sure, yeah. Well, and I forgot to talk about new creatures. So there, you know, there's some of that in quarter three and quarter four, and pretty much every quarter you're going to get new creatures from us as you get further and further. You know, for example, the Scrats, right? So like we have these Scrats. Sorry, not Scrats, Shrieks. That was the initial working title for the Shrieks, was Scrats. I still want to put a boss in called King Scrat. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But that being said, the Shrieks, you know, they kind of relate to how Ember is changing things too, and there's a reason that they're really, like, they're in the Forgotten Depths, and that's the only place you find them right now. I think we have some treats to share with you guys in future quests about the Shrieks and how they came about. But yeah, new creatures, like for example, there seems to be maybe something missing between the mandrakes and the mangroves. Like in between maybe there should be a transition thing there. So we've got some new creatures lined up. Once we get into Grizzled Peaks, for example, you're going to see both different versions of current creatures and like bigger, meaner looking ones. And then you're gonna see some of the new stuff we're working on. So Rob, our lead character artist, he's always working on new stuff. Joe's always getting animations down and working on new stuff as well. So and to say a little bit about that as well, we're always working on new armor models. All of our armor is custom, so it takes a little longer to get like the really unique pieces through, but we're working on stuff like that. I know people have been waiting for well, maybe I shouldn't spill those beans.
No, that's
Okay.
no. Yeah, keep them.
all right.
But we're hearing your feedback. That's what
we can't let Drendon talk for too long. We gotta
No, you can't. You really
cut him
can't.
off periodically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, new creatures. You'll see like some of the same creatures we've been using, but also mixed in, some new creatures as well. So yeah, I mean, Q3, Q4, throughout 2024, you're gonna see new creatures. So that's always going to be a constant thing, kind of like quests. We're always going to be making new quests. Yeah, and I don't know. I shouldn't say some of these things. I'm gonna hold that back.
Well, I would like to jump into this and go in a tangent here to speak about something that work well with certain player and work less well with some other player, which is the kind of slowness or the progression, the relatively slow progression of how our game work, how the story is developing, how the zone are progressing. So at first you encounter a lot of mundane zone. Some people were like, oh, but this is boring, we're just fighting boring bears, etc. But the people that have the patience and that go through it can see the slow progression of it, and it can really capture people. I do believe that if you have the patience, it is beautiful because it doesn't happen in one shot. It doesn't happen fast. So this is the subject of discussion I'm proposing right now. What do you have to say, guys?
Yeah, I think you kind of miss out on something if you just try to rush through. We have a lot of unique mobs in the game, tons of rare loot, but not only that, our quests have multiple endings. So if you're just kind of rushing through the quests just to get the loot and to move on to the next zone, you're gonna miss out on some of the little details, some of the lore, and as we add more and more of the lore tidbits throughout the world, it's gonna be worth your time to kind of examine things and kind of look for those special nuggets of gold lore stuff as we go. So yeah, I mean, and there are already hidden NPCs in the game. So exploring and looking in the out of the way places is going to help you kind of really fully experience the story in the game. And of course, that's not everyone's play style. So if you're the type of person that wants to blast through and get the level 50 achievement and really learn how to spawn rare mobs and those kinds of things, you're more than welcome to it. But maybe then go back with an alt or with your higher level character and just kind of go back and try to do some of those things again to really get the fullness of what Embers Adrift has to offer. I don't know, what do you guys think? I know Andrew's got lots of hidden places and zones that he doesn't always tell us about, so there might even be some we don't know about that are in there. I don't know.
Alice will find them.
Yeah, I've got lots of places that that I've hidden out Bobby knows of a few of them, and we've got to figure out ways that we're going to make them work in a sense. But I like little hidden, explorable things. Things you just kind of randomly come across, and I started that. I think the first thing I did with that was the little pond that's in South New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very hidden, but it's just little pockets of little gems like that. They're the kinds of things that I enjoy making. So I'm hoping to incorporate a lot more as we go along.
That's so cool.
I know there's some stuff in Grimstone. I think it's Phase 3. That's pretty cool. That's the one that I know of. That's a hidden secret place that you've done.
Yeah, there is one in Grimstone that if we can get the tech to work properly, it'll be fun. But if we don't, it's something that people will never ever see. But it'll be below, right beneath their feet, so to speak.
That's so nice. Is it the kind of things that inspire you to write stories, Morrolan?
Oh yeah, we find a lot of little areas, and like whenever we're exploring a new zone for the first time, we always like write down the different locations, the different spots where like this would be a really good place to hide an NPC or to hide, some kind of like quest POI. So yeah, that stuff definitely leads to a lot of creativity.
That's awesome. So we have a slow game that reveals itself step by step to the players, and I hope that you guys enjoy that you can appreciate this.
Yeah.
Will it be...
I enjoy it because I'm getting old. So when things are slowing down, it's good for me.
Well, I do believe it. Someone said that Embers Adrift is a game for older people. It might not be for older people specifically, but it's certainly for people that are capable of enjoying patience, persistence, a journey rather than to rush to the end. So it is a game that addresses to a different type of mentality. And I think that's really what we need to share as a message. Of course, that doesn't mean that the game does not have any improvement to be done, but it is meant to be appreciated in a different way than your regular MMORPG. Why? Because there's plenty of MMORPG that are ready for people that enjoy some fast-paced action, adrenaline, skills, and reflex and all that kind of stuff. And they are great, they are fantastic. But we wanted to create something different for the people that want a different experience. And you can enjoy both experience, and wanting sometimes to relax and chill, and sometimes to challenge yourself in a more adrenaline rushy way.
Come for the MMORPG, stay for the charm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice word in conclusion.
I think the biggest thing that draws me, what I love about it is, like obviously we all come from the older school MMOs like EverQuest and Asheron's Call and Final Fantasy XI, and Final Fantasy XI was my big game. And the thing that I love so much about the game, not just so much the Final Fantasy lore and all of that kind of stuff, but I made a lot of really good friends, and that's what drew me to playing MMOs, was that not only did I get to play a game, but I got to make friends and enjoy my time. And over the years, I've had friends that I've made from 20 years ago playing games. Maybe not that long, but yeah, And so that's what I love about this is, and you can see it within the community that we have, that there are a lot of really helpful and friendly people. And that's what really I love about it. But kind of bring back that, let's make friends again as well as have fun. So
That's very true. And what will you say about that, Morrolan, as the pro gamers of our team?
Well, I think a lot of people confuse the slower pace of the game. If like they think that means that the combat can't be interesting or can't be whatever. Like, if you go back and look at some of those older school games, a lot of them, like the actual inputs were very slow, but they weren't easy at all. Like some of those games were crazy hard, and especially as you got up to the higher levels, like you really had to think about when you were going to use an ability and how you were going to use it. So just because you weren't mashing your buttons 5 times a second doesn't mean that you couldn't like deeply outplay someone else who didn't know their class as well, or who didn't understand the dungeon as well, or didn't understand the situation as well, or wasn't communicating as well. Like there's so much more that goes into gameplay than just your actions per minute, so to speak. And I think that's obvious pretty early on in Embers. Like even when you do your first dungeon run, I think when you're like level 1 or 2, you don't really feel it. But when you're like level 4 doing central veins, even though you don't have that many abilities and you're not mashing your buttons, it's very obvious that good groups are going to be a lot more successful than people that just mindlessly mash every key on cooldown. So there's a lot of potential there, even with the, you know, supposedly slower pace.
Yeah, saving certain skills, making sure you have enough stamina to use them. When you were talking about the encounter at the bottom of the first phase of Forgotten Depths, I was thinking like where you stand is really important. You know, making sure that you're out of line of sight, and you know, like it's not just what buttons you have available. It's your positional awareness and all that kind of stuff. Like that all comes into play. Knowing the mobs' aggro ranges, knowing which mobs like might alert other mobs. Knowing that like the aggro is going to just alert them first, and then if you can get out of line of sight, like maybe you can avoid an ad, all those kinds of things. Like it's
oh yeah, pulling in our game has more depth than like any tab targeting game I've ever played, and I think people don't realize how much of a skill there is to pulling, because we get reports of people who will be like confused and they're like, I don't understand why this mob attacked me but this other one didn't, and it's like there's a very specific system to all that people kind of got to figure out through trial and error. But once you understand how it works, like there's a crazy amount of nuance to splitting pulls or to getting, you know, mobs to chase you the right distance, that I think even high level players kind of, some of them haven't figured out yet, and the ones who have, it's just night and day when you have a good puller versus one who doesn't understand those systems. So, you know, I think it's really satisfying to split a pull that your group thinks can't possibly be split properly, you know?
Yeah, that's true. What I really like about our game is also the fact that preparation is going to help a lot. If you have consumable, potion, good equipment, augment, all that kind of things, you can spend a lot of time preparing your character. This is something you can do solo, for example. If you are looking for solo activity, you can prepare your character for when you are going to group up. Then the other things I really like is how you can be creative. So you don't have to have a specific setup. You can be you know, into trouble, and if you are creative with your group and you react in certain way, there's different way of executing things, and you can find things that are maybe a little original or well thought. How you're running away, like like escaping is a valid strategy. Sometimes you can escape in such a way that you only get one mob in the end and you're losing the 3 other that you had badly pulled or something like this. But there's plenty of creative way of overcoming a challenge. You don't always have to do it in a certain way.
agreed.
Well, we about ready to swap over to our dungeon crawl?
Yes, it is time. Charlize, I would like to say thank you so very much to have been waking up specifically for this live show. It was great to talk with you, and the people are really appreciating your world building and the little hidden spot you are hiding some places.
Yes, well, I'm up before the roosters are up this morning, so yes.
So we're going to continue the show with the Nathan Napalm, Alice, Sparrow, Morlan, Drindin. So we're going to discover one of the new content and showcasing that.